Hey everybody, John Felt here. This is the Blue Water Outlook Weekly Weather Briefing, 13th of December 2025. And we are into winter, maybe not seasonal winter, but meteorological winter, and it sure feels like it. Let's get started talking about winter weather impacts expected this week. Okay, well these are the impacts, more significant impacts, and a couple that are going to affect the nation this week. First of all, cold and snow over parts of the Midwest, Ohio, River Valley, Great Lakes. Extensive area, very cold Arctic air, record-setting cold air. And we're continuing to look at an atmospheric river with more flooding in the Pacific Northwest. Now last week you can see all the extreme rain and snow at higher elevations. We've had multiple atmospheric rivers, and that's associated with a La Nina winter. And we're beginning to get a little bit more locked into that type of pattern. Sometimes it takes some time, so we might have these type patterns on and off for the next month. Also, we had higher elevation snow in those areas. And look at these sort of smooth type echoes here. That was snow, and these are our snow tracks, higher elevations of the west. And then these Alberta clippers, northwest, southeast moving, very fast moving systems. They can produce some heavy snow though, usually a dry snow. And then we also have lake effect snow. I put out a post last week that talked about the Great Lakes are still open. They're probably not as much now, but there's only 2 or 3% ice covered, so a lot of open water. Those winds flow across the lake and we get that lake effect snow. Now temperatures this morning, look at the cold air here. We're in well below zero over the upper Midwest and Great Lakes region, and that cold air is poised to sag south as we go through the weekend. Now last week, we had a dividing line. I'm going to be talking about that dividing line. The west, above normal, and the east, below normal. Coldest temperatures of the week, anything in the purple, drop down below zero. Anything in blue, single digits. Okay, so let's talk about the big picture here. And we're sort of dominated by this Pacific Ridge pattern here with very strong high pressure. And that's giving an amplified flow. And that Pacific Ridge looks like it's going to last for the next week or so before moderating. If we look at the Arctic Oscillation, and this is a good indication of temperature, we're in this dip right now, strong dip. That's associated with cold air intrusions in the central and eastern U.S. But look at this. Over the next week to 10 days, we get out of that and we actually get positive Arctic oscillation. So just looking at this chart right here, that would say after this intrusion of cold Arctic air, moderation could be ahead. Okay, so here we are. Here's that really a buckled jet stream, amplified flow, dipping jet stream associated with cold air, ridge of high pressure associated with mild weather. But as we go through the week, the blocking high up in the Arctic begins to sort of let go, and this polar vortex starts to retreat back to where it should be. And that means even though we have some lobes of cold air, here's one, overall this high pressure starts to expand, and that brings in the moderation in temperature. So let's take a look at temperature. If we sort of step back here, the top left graphic, next 5 days sort of looks different than the next two. We have that dividing line right through the middle of the nation. Red above normal, blue below normal. But then as we get past maybe the next 5 days, look at that. We start to get much milder air over the nation. And if you're thinking about Christmas week, this is Christmas week right here. And look at this. Many areas above normal temperature. So we can get past this cold weather. It looks like we could get some nice weather ahead. Now, Pacific Northwest, which is experiencing some really mild weather, that might reverse in that area. But we got to get past the cold air in many areas. And look at Sunday. These are temperature departures, 15 to 30 degrees, 30 degrees below what would be normal. That's colder than the middle of winter. Okay, so that's temperature. We're talking about record-setting cold and then a moderation. Let's talk about rain and snow. Pretty quiet week with the exception of the Pacific Northwest. Another atmospheric river, level 4 out of 5. More rain. We had all-time record flooding in that area, and that's going to either prolong that flooding or maybe even bring some higher crests and spots. Other than that, pretty quiet. We do have another clipper system associated with this cold front that is passing, lake effect snow, and a band of maybe 2 to 5 inches of snow along that clipper's path. Okay, now we look a little bit further out. Here's week 2. Week 2, moderation. Above normal temperatures expanding. And overall, the west looks a little bit wet. The southeast looks a little bit dry. And here's weeks 3 and 4, just give you an idea what might be coming ahead. That's way out there. Just keep that in mind. Anyway, really cold out there in many spots, but keep in mind, it does not look like it's going to last that long, and milder air is on the way. Take care.